The fundamental question we must confront is this: why would any leader, bound by oath to defend their nation, deliberately fling open its borders to an unrelenting invasion? The answer is as damning as it is clear. Joe Biden and his puppet masters never served the American people. They operated under the illusion of leadership while orchestrating one of the greatest betrayals in modern history.
Welcome, my fellow Americans. First and foremost, I want to thank you for choosing us, believing that America is worthy of your aspirations. Every immigrant comes from America from different circumstances and for different reasons. But you all have one thing in common: courage. The courage it takes to sacrifice and make this journey. The courage to leave your homes, your lives, your loved ones, and come to a nation that is more than just a place, but rather an idea.
Their allegiance was never to the citizens they swore to protect, but to their own political, financial, and strategic enrichment. Make no mistake. The institutions they have corrupted are now fortified, not to serve the American people, but to shield the interests of the Democratic elite. This is not governance. It's a hostile occupation by an entrenched ruling class that sees itself as untouchable. And let me be absolutely clear. This is a club of privilege, power, and control. And you are not in it. The last 4 years have proven beyond doubt that this was no accident or oversight. The scale of illegal immigration under Biden's regime reached unprecedented levels.
When I was president, when I was vice president, the president asked me to focus on providing help needed to address the root causes of migration. And it helped keep people in their own countries instead of being forced to leave. The plan was working, but the last administration decided it was not worth it. I'm restoring the program and asked Vice President Harris to lead our diplomatic effort to take care of this. I have absolute confidence she'll get the job done.
With the rate of entry resembling a vertical 90-degree surge. This was not just a border crisis, it was a full-scale invasion.
August border numbers came out on Monday, bringing the total number of encounters at our southern border thus far for fiscal year 2024 to more than 2 million. 2,033,260 to be precise. The third highest total ever recorded, with another month still to go. The highest total ever recorded was in fiscal year 2023. The second highest total ever recorded was in fiscal year 2022. And the fourth highest total ever recorded was in fiscal year 2021. In other words, Mr. President, President Biden, Vice President Harris have presided over 4 years of record-breaking illegal immigration at our southern border.
The border is secure. The border is closed. We've been unequivocal in that.
The consequences of this reckless policy were immediate and catastrophic. Demand for housing, food, healthcare, and public services skyrocketed, driving inflation to crippling levels and overwhelming every facet of American cost of living. Public schools were stretched beyond capacity, hospitals buckled under the strain, and social safety nets meant for American citizens were stripped away to subsidize this mass influx. The cultural fabric of the nation suffered just as much as its economic stability. American children were forced to accommodate and assimilate into a foreign cultural shift that rejected traditional American values and were more in line with that of a third world country. Under Democratic rule, the adage, "you get what you pay for," has been utterly obliterated, proven by the disgraceful reality that we now are on a continued trajectory toward the bottom in education, while paying nearly the top per student. This catastrophic failure has created a system so dysfunctional that it necessitates an influx of H-1B visas just to sustain the emerging AI-driven economy, effectively outsourcing the future that should have belonged to American students. The once thriving middle class, built on principles of hard work, self-reliance, and community, was systematically hollowed out, replaced by a population strategically made dependent on government handouts. This was no mere policy failure. It was a calculated effort to dismantle the self-sufficient, independent citizenry and replace it with a compliant, impoverished class, desperate and beholden to government welfare. And why? Because the Democratic elite subscribe to the economic philosophy of zero-sum governance. They don't build wealth, they confiscate and redistribute it to maintain power. In their worldview, for them to win, the American people must lose. Their entire economic playbook is based on draining resources, burdening the productive class, and then shifting the inevitable collapse onto the very people they claim to champion. They learn from the school of socialist redistribution, where money is spent until it runs out, and when the crisis they created finally hits, they deflect responsibility through misdirection and selective prosecution.
4 FEMA employees fired for their role in directing a $59 million payment to New York City last week to cover the cost of illegal migrants so they could stay in luxury hotels. The firings after Elon Musk revealed on X that Doge and his team had discovered that the funds had been moved. FEMA's chief financial officer, 2 program analysts, and a grant specialist all dismissed. DHS officials say the agency will not sit idly by while activists try to undermine the will and safety of the American people.
We now have a deeply entrenched network of operatives within federal, state, and local government whose sole mission is to maintain a stranglehold on the population, manipulating, obstructing, and suppressing resistance until the cancer of their agenda has metastasized beyond the point of no return. Now, as America stands at the edge of irreversible decline, the task of restoration becomes infinitely more difficult.
When one of these things comes to your backyard, you can resist. And what that happens over millions of people is that you generate enough friction that they cannot go as fast as they want to go. Make sure that you are slowing down this system.
AOC's office advising migrants on how to avoid deportations. That was a live webinar. Trump border czar Tom Homan now issuing a warning to AOC.
I sent an email today to the Deputy Attorney General. At what level is that impediment? Is that impeding our law enforcement efforts? If so, what are we going to do about it? Is she crossing the line?
The damage inflicted is not just economic, but deeply systemic. Courts have been weaponized to shield those responsible while obstructing any effort at course correction.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens.
Legal loopholes will be exploited to delay and weaken any reforms, and the political class will deploy distraction tactics to divert attention away from the real crisis. The rot runs deep, and unless we strip the establishment of its ability to manipulate the rules, we will remain locked in their zero-sum game, where the American people are always on the losing end.
They have green light laws, meaning they're giving a green light to any illegal alien in New York, where law enforcement officers cannot check their identity if they pull them over. Law enforcement officers do not have access to their background. And if these great men and women pull over someone and don't have access to their background, they have no idea who they're dealing with.
The path forward is undeniable. It requires bold, relentless, and unapologetic action. Self-deportation must not only be encouraged, but made an inevitable consequence of illegal entry. The vast infrastructure that has allowed illegal immigrants to root themselves into American society, welfare, public education, subsidized housing, healthcare, and employment protections, must be dismantled without hesitation. These benefits meant for American citizens have been hijacked to sustain an invasion that is bleeding this nation dry. The institutions complicit in this crisis must be purged of political corruption, restructured to serve their rightful purpose, and stripped of the bureaucratic rot that has allowed this betrayal to fester. Given the staggering numbers and the relentless legal maneuvers designed to stall any meaningful action, there is only one viable path. Cut off every incentive that sustains illegal residency. No access to healthcare, no enrollment in public schools, no government assistance, no legal or illegal employment. The message must be clear. If you don't belong here, you'll find no sanctuary, no loophole, and no lifeline. Furthermore, those within our own ranks who have aided and abetted this invasion, whether through direct assistance or willful neglect, must face serious criminal consequences.
There are two different things going on here with the Democrats. The first is they are watching with terror as all the different sources of government money that has propped them up for the last 60 or 70 years, all of it is now being challenged by President Trump and by Elon Musk. I mean, this cuts at the very base of their coalition. And if they can't bribe people, if they can't act corruptly, if they can't take care of their friends, their entire coalition is going to collapse.
This includes government officials, corporate entities, and private citizens who have knowingly enabled illegal residency. Justice must be swift and unforgiving. And finally, we must turn the full weight of true justice against those who weaponize selective prosecution to protect this corruption, embedding it deep within our political system to cement their power and suppress the will of the people. The days of unchecked betrayal must end. The American people demand action, and action they shall have. Make no mistake, there are still millions of Americans willing to fight to reclaim this nation. But time is running out. If we don't take immediate control of the game, removing power from those who perpetuate destruction, we will suffer the fate of every great nation that allowed itself to be overrun and hollowed out from within. If we continue playing by their rules, we'll lose. Like the victims of Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme, the American people will wake up one day to find everything stolen, our wealth, our security, our sovereignty, all for the benefit of an elite ruling class that never had any intention of serving the nation in the first place. The question is no longer whether we fight back. It's whether we still have the will to do so before it's too late.